The film begins by showing a scene of Japan in 1844. During that time, the most powerful leader in Japan was known as the Shogun Tokugawa. Now, a shogun is like a top commander or general in Japan. Everything was peaceful in Japan until a nobleman named Matsudaira Naritsugu, who belonged to the Akashi clan, caused trouble with his extremely cruel behavior. At that time, he started doing terrible things like hurting, mutilating, assaulting, and even killing both important people and regular folks for no clear reason. Even though he was being openly cruel, nobody could say anything against him because the government was protecting him. On top of that, Naritsugu was the younger brother of the shogun, which means he was in line to become the leader someday. Then, one day, a man from the Umiya clan did something very drastic to show his strong disapproval of Naritsugu becoming part of the shogun council. He openly performed seppuku, which was a traditional act of honorable death for samurai. This man's actions were driven by his deep hatred for Naritsugu, because Naritsugu had killed all of his family members. After this brave man's death, the shogun's Minister of Justice, Sir Doi, quickly had a secret meeting with the group of people who were against Naritsugu being on the council. During the meeting, Sir Doi warned them that if Naritsugu were to become part of the shogun's council, it would very likely lead to a war between the shogun and many other important social and political leaders. After some time had passed, the shogun still wanted to promote Naritsugu. Knowing this, Sir Doi decided to seek help from a trusted samurai named Sin Zamonth, who had a hobby of fishing. In secret, Sir Doi met with Sin Zamonth and asked him to take action against Naritsugu. He also brought along his friend Yuki, who had witnessed Naritsugu's cruelty and was a well-known leader in the Owari clan. There, Yuki told Sin Zamonth about a terrible incident that happened a year ago, when Naritsugu had stopped in the town of Sishu during his travels. Back then, Yuki had offered Naritsugu a party, sending his son's daughter-in-law or wife to provide the most delicious food in the city. But instead of accepting the food, Naritsugu had committed a horrifying act by assaulting Yuki's daughter-in-law. Later, when Yuki's son had discovered what happened, he tried to calm his wife down. However, Naritsugu suddenly killed Yuki's son, leaving his wife in such shame that she chose to do the unthinkable. After hearing Yuki's story, Sir Doi showed Sin Zamonth the girl from a farmer's family in Akashi who had suffered terribly at the hands of Naritsugu. At that time, Naritsugu did a really cruel thing someone could ever think of. He had also assaulted her entire family, using her to satisfy his desires before heartlessly throw her away. This horrifying tale filled Samurai Sin Zamonth with a burning desire for revenge against Naritsugu. Meanwhile, one of Naritsugu's loyal followers, Hanbai, learned that his master had mercilessly slaughtered the Umiya clan family. There, Hanbai pleaded with Naritsugu to spare the Umiya family, but his pleas fell on deaf ears, and Naritsugu proceeded with the killings. After witnessing Naritsugu's cruelty, Hanbai received word that Sir Doi was plotting to kill Naritsugu. In response, Hanbai ordered his men to keep a close watch on Sir Doi. The following day, Hanbai received a surprising message from Sir Doi, informing him that he had asking the help of Sin Zamonth. This news left Hanbai in shock, as he had known Sin Zamonth from their time in the same class and was aware of his firm determination. Meanwhile, Sin Zamonth started gathering his best samurai warriors. His first recruit was Hirayama, his top student. Then he reached out to his friend Kuranaga, who was eager to join him. Besides Kuranaga, 6 skilled samurai, who were Kuranaga's best students, joined the team. These samurai were named Mitsuhashi, Hioki, Odake, Ishizuka, Higuchi, and Hori. During their meeting, Sin Zamonth devised a plan to attack Naritsugu while he was traveling from Edo to Akashi. After the meeting, as one of the samurai was heading home, he was suddenly attacked by a group of mysterious men. Fortunately, Hirayama came to the rescue and easily defeated the attackers. These men turned out to be professional soldiers sent by Hanbai to keep an eye on Sin Zamonth's actions. There, Hanbai soon realized that Sin Zamonth's samurai team was no ordinary group. The following day, Sin Zamonth felt that his team was still lacking, so he approached his cousin, Sin Rokuro, who had a fondness for gambling. Initially, Shinmurukuro had doubts about joining the mission because he cherished his girlfriend deeply and feared the dangers of the battlefield. But after some thinking, Shinmurukuro changed his mind and decided to join Zamonth. He bid farewell to his girlfriend, realizing he was embarking on a noble mission. The following day, Zamonth added 2 new members to the team, Ogura and Sahara. However, Sahara asked for some money up front, which he planned to use to create graves for his wife and children. After agreeing to Sahara's request, Shinmurukuro approached Zamonth and asked to join as well. In the end, the group of samurai led by Zamonth grew to 12 members. Over time, they began practicing their swordsmanship and crafting explosives they would use against Naritsugu's troops. One evening, during a strategy meeting, Hanbei suddenly appeared and warned Zamonth about the significant risks involved in trying to kill Naritsugu. Despite knowing that Naritsugu's actions were wrong, Hanbei defended him because Naritsugu was the last heir who could continue the shogun's legacy. Zamonth, however, remained determined to take the risk and let Hanbei go. Then they both vowed to fight when the time came. The next day, Naritsugu began his journey from the Edo region to Akasi. Meanwhile, Zamonth was trying to figure out when would be the best time to attack Naritsugu's troops. After some thought, Zamonth gathered his samurai and told them that they would launch their attack on Naritsugu's forces in the city of Ochi. Zamonth also instructed 2 of his samurai to buy various supplies and equipment in the city. At the same time, he asked Kuranaga to seek help from Yuki. Once everything was prepared, Zamonth led his troops on horseback through the countryside. Upon reaching a village, they were suddenly get attacked by a gang of bandits who shows up from a bar. Then a fierce battle happened, but Zamonth's samurai easily win. It turned out that these bandits were actually professional soldiers sent by Hanbei, who were trying to stop them. Upon realizing that Hanbei already knew their planned route, Zamonth and his samurai decided to take a path through the mountains. However, during their journey, they became lost in the dense forest. Eventually, they came across a hunter named Koyota who would become trapped. At that time, Zamonth freed Koyota and struck a deal where Koyota would guide them in the right direction in exchange for food. From that moment on, Koyota became the 13th member of their group, even though he wasn't a samurai by profession. At the same time, Naritsugu and his soldiers were caught off guard when Yuki blocked their path by closing the bridge. Naritsugu even approached Yuki with the intent to kill him. However, Yuki's men quickly aimed their weapons at Naritsugu, forcing Hanbei to told his master to retreat. Upon hearing that, Hanbei and Naritsugu took a brief pause at the forest's edge to discuss which route to take. Surprisingly, Naritsugu suggested that they take the path that had been prepared as a trap by Zamonth. After Naritsugu departed, Yuki made the painful decision to perform seppuku to conceal his involvement in the plan to kill Naritsugu. The next day, Zamonth and his fellow samurai made it to Ochi City. At that time, they teamed up to set up traps and build forts filled with explosives. The next day, Ishizuka, who was keeping an eye on Naritsugu's soldiers, rejoined the group and told Zamonth that Naritsugu had disappeared from the expected route. This worried the samurai because they thought Naritsugu might have chosen a different path. But Zamonth wasn't concerned because he believed Hanbei already knew about their plan and couldn't avoid it. Then, Zamonth also ordered the samurai to set up more traps to strengthen their plan. As evening came, they started to get anxious because Naritsugu's troops hadn't passed by yet. When night turned to morning, Sahara, who was watching the forest, rushed back to the city with news that Naritsugu's forces were approaching. Not only that, but Sahara also revealed that Naritsugu's troops weren't just 70 people, but 200 people. Despite being outnumbered, Zamonth wasn't scared. He assured his troops that they could still fight Naritsugu's forces. As the sun rose, Naritsugu and Hanbei's troops finally reached the city. Next, Hanbei and his troops were escorting Naritsugu through the small town. Along the way, Hanbei noticed that the townspeople were fleeing towards the forest. Soon after, a massive wooden gate suddenly blocked their path. When they tried to go back to the bridge that connected the town, the bridge was blown up by samurai leader Zamonth. So, Naritsugu and his troops found themselves trapped inside the town. With the enemy trapped, Zamonth and his samurai team launched an attack on Naritsugu's forces using explosives, arrows, and swords. One of the samurai, named Koyota, didn't have a weapon, so he used slingshots and wood to attack the enemy. Then the 13 samurai attacked one after another, causing many people dead among Naritsugu's troops. At that time, they couldn't put up much resistance, and even seeking shelter in buildings proved useless because those buildings were full of explosives. After the first attack, there were only a few enemy troops left, which motivated Zamonth even more to finish them off. Shortly after, they engaged in close combat. During the battle between the 13 samurai and Hanbei's troops, Hanbei decided to shield Naritsugu from harm to keep him safe. But soon after, one of Hanbei's soldiers found what seemed like an escape route and led Naritsugu toward it. However, this path turned out to be a trap. They were confronted by a great samurai named Hirayama. In a short time, Hirayama managed to defeat dozens of Hanbei's soldiers who were protecting Naritsugu. When Hirayama was about to attack Naritsugu, Hanbei suddenly appeared with more soldiers. In the end, Hirayama had to retreat, and Hanbei and Naritsugu were left trapped. As the battle went on, one after another, Zamonth began to lose their lives. This intense battle turned the city into a bloody scene, as many people witnessed the violence. Surprisingly, Naritsugu was seen smiling during the chaos. He even confessed that he couldn't wait to serve on the shogun's council, so he could experience big wars like those in the Sengoku era again. Despite losing many of their own, the samurai managed to defeat a large portion of Hanbei's troops until only a few were left. At that critical moment, Koyota confronted Naritsugu and his remaining troops armed only with a piece of wood. In response, Naritsugu threw his sword at Koyota, and Hanbei immediately killed him, causing Koyota to fall. After a long battle, Zamonth's samurai finally defeated the entire army of Hanbei, leaving only Naritsugu, Hanbei, and 2 of their followers. Now they have to face Zamonth and Shinrokuro. At that time, Zamonth prepared to face Hanbei in a one-on-one battle. Both of them were skilled swordsmen. Eventually, Zamonth managed to knock down Hanbei and kill him. At the same time, Shinrokuro took on 2 of Naritsugu's followers and defeated them. Unexpectedly, Naritsugu kicked Hanbei, who had been a loyal follower, and sacrificed his life for him. Naritsugu also insulted the idea that regular people and samurai had the same purpose, which was to serve their master. However, Zamonth disagreed. He explained that rulers couldn't survive without the support of their people. If rulers abused their power, the people would not hesitate to rise up and oppose them. Upon hearing this, Naritsugu got angry and stabbed Zamonth. But Zamonth did the same in return, seeking revenge for the people who had suffered because of Naritsugu. For the first time, Naritsugu felt such pain that he had to crawl on the grass, with no one to assist him. Next, Zamonth approached Naritsugu and swiftly killed him. After that, he lay down with a happy grin on his face, celebrating his winning over the most vicious person in Japan. Zamonth also told a message to Shinrokuro, telling him to follow his heart and do as he pleased. In the end, Zamonth took his final breath. Shinrokuro then walked through the blood-soaked streets of Ochi. Eventually, they spotted someone shows up joyfully from the ruins of a building. To their surprise, it was Koyota, who miraculously survived despite being seriously injured. They shared their plans for the future, and Koyota mentioned he would return to his previous life of hunting in the forest and living away from cities. Meanwhile, Shinrokuro decided to marry his girlfriend and leave Japan for America. After their victory against the enemy, the 2 friends parted ways to pursue their separate lives. In the end, it's mentioned that the shogun concealed the true events, stating that Naritsugu had died of an illness on his way to Akasi. 23 years later, the Takugo shogunate was overthrown during the Meiji Restoration. The film ends. The moral lesson from this film is if you're a cruel leader, don't smile during epic battles, cause it's just a bad etiquette, and you might ended up dead.